Monday morning commute. The ABC News exclusive, Inside the Ambush, the man who lost his wife and 2 sons speaking out for the first time about the attack in Mexico that killed 9 Americans. The hero's son who survived, just 13 years old, and what he's telling us now. Impeachment battle lines, the high stakes and historic showdown set for Capitol Hill as the impeachment inquiry into President Trump goes public. The televised hearings and new clues tonight about what to expect from lawmakers in both parties. The teacher arrested for assault as shocking new video surfaces from inside the classroom showing her repeatedly hit, drag, and stomp a sophomore student. The supermarket shootout, gunshots reported inside the store before police confront the suspect in the parking lot. The exchange of gunfire caught on camera. Also tonight, Black Friday starts now as major retailers roll out door-busting holiday deals. MacBooks, watches, a new TV, how you can save your family hundreds. And Eternal Patrol, the exclusive journey to the bottom of the sea in search of sailors who made the ultimate sacrifice during World War II. And the moment 2 families learn about one remarkable discovery 75 years later.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Tom Yamas. And we begin a shivering start to the new week as millions face record cold. Bitter Arctic air is now moving into the center of the country and is set to march east, already dumping snow in the northern plains. More dangerous driving is expected across the Midwest, including in Chicago, where up to half a foot of snow is expected during the Monday morning commute. At the same time, the coldest air of the season from the Gulf Coast straight to Maine, with some temperatures 30 degrees below average. Let's get right to meteorologist Greg Durda. Greg.
Tom, I'll tell you, this is a midwinter blast of air, not a November one. Winter weather advisories, they stretch from Montana all the way to Maine as this system makes its way across the nation. Let's track this because it is going to be a very messy commute from Kansas to Chicago early tomorrow morning. The storm slides east Monday night, bringing snow to the Ohio River Valley, and what starts off as some chilly rain on I-95 could turn to some snowflakes late in our nation's capital. That would be Tuesday night. Then on the heels of this, brutal wind chills. We're talking about teens and 20s as far south as Texas. This is going to challenge records that some of which have been standing since the late 1900s. And here in New York, what has been pretty nice over the last couple of days is going to turn cold again. We are going to get some of those wind chills down into the teens by Wednesday when that cold air makes it to the East Coast. Tom?
A frigid week ahead. All right, Greg joining us from our Chicago affiliate WLS. Greg, thank you. Next tonight, the historic showdown this week on Capitol Hill. The impeachment inquiry into President Trump and his Ukraine call going public with high-stakes televised hearings set for Wednesday and Friday. First up will be William Taylor, the top diplomat in Ukraine, who already testified it was clear millions in military aid would be withheld unless there was an investigation into the president's political rivals. Taylor called it, quote, crazy. But Republicans have their own list of witnesses they want to hear from, including Hunter Biden and that anonymous whistleblower. ABC's David Wright is at Trump Tower tonight.
Tonight, with the impeachment inquiry about to enter a new public phase, the battle lines are drawn over who should testify.
They're having people, I never even heard of some of these people. I don't know who they are. And by the way, it's all third-hand knowledge.
That's not true. The committee has heard from several witnesses who were on that July phone call in which President Trump asked Ukraine to investigate the Bidens. As it stands, the first witness scheduled to appear is America's top diplomat in Ukraine, William Taylor. Behind closed doors, Taylor has already testified it was his clear understanding there was a quid pro quo, $400 million in U.S. military aid contingent on Ukraine announcing a corruption investigation of President Trump's political rivals, an arrangement Taylor called crazy.
This is a very strong case of bribery.
Republicans, for their part, want to hear from Hunter Biden and the anonymous whistleblower who first sounded the alarm that resulted in the impeachment inquiry.
If they don't call the whistleblower in the House, this thing is dead on arrival in the Senate.
But the chair of the House Intelligence Committee said calling the whistleblower would only place their personal safety at grave risk. Adam Schiff also appeared to reject calling Hunter Biden, warning that the impeachment inquiry should not be a vehicle to carry out the same sham investigations that President Trump pressed Ukraine to conduct for his personal political benefit.
We want to stay focused on the Ukraine call, and having Hunter Biden come in is unrelated to the Ukraine call.
All right, David Wright joins us now from outside Trump Tower there in New York, where the president is preparing to appear at tomorrow's Veterans Day parade. Clearly a big security presence there. And David, the president is getting some support tonight from his former UN ambassador.
That's right. Nikki Haley has a new book coming out this week in which she alleges competing agendas and disloyalty within the Trump administration. All of it predates Ukraine, but she describes in the book reportedly how Secretary of State Rex Tillerson at the time and former Chief of Staff John Kelly approached her and asked her to save the country by undermining President Trump. She says in the book, she said no. Tom?
David Wright for us tonight there outside Trump Tower. David, thank you. And there will be complete ABC News coverage of the House impeachment hearing starting Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern right here on ABC and on ABC News Live. We do move on now to an ABC News exclusive in the wake of that deadly ambush in Mexico that left 9 Americans dead. About 100 members of the Mormon families impacted by the attack pulling out of Mexico this weekend in a caravan seeking a new start in the United States. The Mexican government tonight inviting the FBI to join the investigation. And now we are hearing for the first time from David Langford, whose wife and 2 sons were killed, as well as his 13-year-old son who survived the horror, then walked 14 miles to help. Their interview tonight that I conducted. For the first time, David Langford and his hero son Devin, who helped rescue his wounded siblings, sharing their harrowing story with ABC News in an exclusive interview.
Not only have I lost a wife and 2 children, but I'm having to move the rest of my family with really no place to go at this point.
So Langford and much of his extended family are leaving Northwest Mexico. They're part of a fundamentalist Mormon group that has lived in the area for decades, before the drug cartels took over and the violence became unescapable.
I believe in forgiveness, but I also believe in justice. And forgiveness doesn't rob justice. And justice, you don't get justice too much in Mexico.
This video showing the caravan, at least 18 vehicles full of families crossing the border into the U.S. That ambush attack, the final straw. 3 mothers and 6 children killed. Langford telling us when you look at what the cartel hitmen did to his family's vehicles, it's amazing 7 of his children survived.
Every one of my children that survived that are living miracles. It's beyond amazing that they survived.
Including his baby son Brixton. A bullet grazed his chest. Any lower would have been fatal.
Even a 1/4 of an inch, because the impact of the bullet itself would have collapsed his lungs.
Langford says more and more evidence points to the cartel. His son Devin saying the killers had long guns and wore vests. The family was driving to see relatives in a neighboring state.
They kind of got caught up in a drug war between 2 rival gangs, and they just kind of got caught in the crossfire.
And as the shooting started, Devin telling us the last thing his mother said and did.
Get down right now. She was trying to pray to the Lord.
David says seeing the brutal way his loved ones were killed, along with an emotional funeral that some of his wounded children attended, has been almost too much to bear.
The toughest part for me was saying goodbye. Yeah, it definitely was. Saying goodbye to 2 innocent lives that were cut short, and a vibrant wife that lived life to its fullest.
Now he's focused on aiding his surviving children.
To be honest with you, my boy's a hero simply because he gave his life for his brothers and sisters.
And tomorrow only on GMA, part 2 of our interview, that 13-year-old boy, Devin, tells his story, what he saw, what he remembers, and what drove him to walk those 14 miles, plus the family's message to America. That's tomorrow on GMA. Next tonight, a Texas teacher under arrest for assault after cell phone video emerged showing a brutal classroom attack on a sophomore student. ABC's Trevor Ault has the details, and we do warn you the footage is disturbing.
Alyssa, look!
Tonight, a violent moment inside a Texas classroom going viral. As a result, the community demanding answers after authorities say this substitute teacher was seen on video unleashing a vicious attack on this 16-year-old student, throwing a flurry of punches, then dragging the teen to the ground, finally stomping on her head. That teacher, 32-year-old Tiffany Langford, now charged with aggravated assault. A student in the class saying Langford had become increasingly agitated at the Spanish language class, eventually closing in on the victim.
The student swung because she was in her face and pressing her.
The immediate onslaught that followed, leaving the student wailing on the ground.
I was just sort of like stuck. I didn't know how to react.
The student's attorney says she has epilepsy. The school district says Langford did pass a background check when they hired her in August, adding there is absolutely no excuse or circumstance that can justify what you see unfold on the video.
The school district has now fired this teacher. She was arrested Friday on school grounds, but has since bonded out of jail. Tom?
Trevor Alt with that disturbing case tonight. All right, Trevor, thank you. Now to the shootout outside a supermarket in Louisville. Police responding to a call of gunshots inside the store, confronting the suspect in the parking lot before several shots are exchanged. The suspect would not survive. ABC's Kaylee Hartung has the details.
A wild shootout in a supermarket's parking lot. Tonight, the dramatic video caught on this police body camera. The panic beginning inside the store.
People running everywhere, screaming, "He's got a gun, he's got a gun."
One man allegedly assaulting another customer, then firing a gun multiple times into the ceiling.
Gunshots fired in the store.
Dozens of shoppers fearing for their lives.
We'll be on scene in a few blocks.
Police responding in less than 1 minute, just as the shooter moves outside.
Shooter? Hey! Hey!
You hear a witness fleeing the store, identifying that man in the red hoodie as the gunman. Then he takes aim at police. Both officers taking cover and returning fire.
Shots fired, one subject down.
Seconds later, killing the shooter.
I am personally grateful for the brave and swift response from our officers, because this could have been a very different press conference today if not for their efforts.
No one else was injured. Both officers have been put on administrative reassignment as the department investigates the shooting. Tom?
Kaylee Hartung for us tonight. Kaylee, thank you. Now to the race for 2020. Many Democratic hopefuls hitting the campaign trail this weekend, but is a potential new opponent already shaking up the race? ABC's Rachel Scott is just back from Iowa.
With the first vote less than 90 days away, the Democratic candidates for president are bracing for a shakeup. Billionaire Michael Bloomberg setting the stage to jump in the race. And the national early frontrunner, former Vice President Joe Biden, saying, bring it on.
I have no problem with him getting in the race. And in terms of he's running because of me, last polls I looked at, I'm pretty far ahead.
Sources close to Bloomberg say he's worried that the current field of candidates won't be able to beat Donald Trump, and he thinks he can. But progressives are criticizing the former New York City mayor for relying on his immense personal wealth to find a path to the nomination.
I think that our elections should not be something that are bought by billionaires.
Sorry, you ain't gonna buy this election.
This weekend, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders on a multi-stop swing through Iowa.
Hello,
Iowa! Campaigning for the first time with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a key endorsement for his campaign. I sat down with the two of them and asked Ocasio-Cortez why she's supporting Sanders over Senator Elizabeth Warren.
It's about a personal story and a personal history, and I think the senator's history and commitment is unique.
And Sanders unleashed on the Bloomberg campaign plan to skip out on the earliest voting states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada.
When you're worth $50 billion, I guess you don't have to have town meetings. You don't have to talk to ordinary people. What you do is you take out, I guess, a couple of $1 billion and you buy the state of California.
All right, Rachel Scott joins us now from Washington, just back from Iowa. Rachel, let's go back to Michael Bloomberg and what you just reported there. If he jumps into this race, his campaign strategy is very unconventional. What are his aides telling you?
That's right, Tom. Well, Bloomberg clearly understands that those key early voting states only make up a fraction of the delegates that he would need to clinch the party's nomination. But he also understands that the rest of the Democratic field has a head start there. So if he does get into this race, his advisors say that he is confident that they can win the states that vote on Super Tuesday and beyond. Tom?
Rachel Scott for us tonight with that Democratic field possibly expanding. Rachel, thank you. And there's much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday. The jewelry store thieves trying to pull off a smash and grab when the owner pulls out a weapon. What happened next? Plus, the black